Property manager of 20 years. What would she buy as an investment property? Stay tuned. We're going to talk to Cleo right now.
I'm the ringleader, so listen up.
Dream, 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 dream. So we all want to buy as many investment properties as we can, but what investment property would we buy? And when you ask someone who's managing these assets, this is going to be interesting for me to hear. Good morning, Cleo.
Hi, good morning.
Talk to us, Cleo. Talk to us.
It's actually an interesting topic. I'm going to put in my ticket for the 150 million Powerball today. So hopefully this segment will be a lead up to that.
Yeah, you're just putting good energy out there.
Yeah, putting the energy out there. Investment wise, I do actually have an investment property. It's a 1-bedroom apartment near the beach. And if I were to do it again, I would possibly get another one better. I think the one betters are the silent hero in the investment property world.
Really? Why is that? Rents quickly, good tenants. Tell me why.
There's a big demand for rental property. There always has been, but there's also a demand for property that's suitable for that older demographic that may not have the kids, that aren't ready for their retirement home. They're independent, they're still working, but they don't want a garden, they don't want a big space. So one betters, I feel, are also really good for not just mature people, but couples starting out that want to rent for the very first time, and they don't have a lot of income in their early 20s just yet, but they are, wanting to be independent and move out of home and have a start. I very rarely have ever had any vacancy with a 1-bedroom apartment. They rent very, very quickly. And especially in this market when there's low stock, we were talking during COVID about, people wanting that extra room and needing to work from home and wanting that extra bedroom. I'm not finding that as much now. People are saving. They want to save money, and they're downsizing into property instead of upsizing at the moment.
So Mark Conway, you go to Mark Conway, the mortgage broker. He says you are approved for finance, and you get approved for 800,000. Tell me which suburb, which block, what size, what it would rent for. Tell me about that property. So you got funds approved of 700,000 or 800,000. Where are you going?
Look, you can't go wrong in a new development project in DY for sure, because DY is right in the middle. We are in the hub. Biased, of course, because I work in DY, but I also, live up towards Mona Vale area, and I always find that rent comparison wise, you get a little bit more for your buck in DY if you're an investor than you would Mona Vale, Newport, further along. It's just the way it is because it's closer to the city. People want to be close to Manly. There's a bit more of a, restaurant sort of hub, and people coming from outer areas tend to gravitate towards DY as well. So I would be looking at a one, maybe possibly 1+ study if you get into those early development projects, but definitely as an investment you'll get really healthy, good rent. I think if you're going to buy property 1-bedroom, somewhere where it's close to the beach in Mona Vale or Newport, you're looking at yield, I think, more than you want to hold it for a long time, and then if it's time to sell, you'll get your money back that way, whereas the rent's a little bit lower.
So with buying a property, can you you mentioned a study, can you explain what a good study is or a bad study, or what you mean by study? Because this is a relatively new thing. Things didn't have studies before when they were built in the 70s.
No, a study could also mean like almost another bedroom. Some people can put a cot in a study, or, you know, a study's a work from home area where you can have a desk and a computer. It means it does not have a window. So it's not usually for a new development, it's another area that's separate to the lounge or bedroom. That gives you some flexibility for, like you said, you could have a guest bed in there, you could have it for work from home, storage. It's just that little bit extra on the plan, you know, that you get, as opposed to just a normal one bedroom, one lounge, one kitchen. So I think in that price range that you were saying, up to 800, if you're in the early development stage, you possibly could get that. So yeah, it's not a bad thing, and tenants do like to have that, you know, little desk space where they can do work from home if they want to.
This is a cool topic for our friends out there. I'm loving it. If anyone's got any questions for Cleo, feel free to ask. We're a live show. Cleo, so you got your funds of 700,000, 800,000. You're going to go out to buy a one bedroom unit. You've said you like DY. What are the things that where you curl your toes up and you're like, yeah, no, that's a shit unit?
Well, some of the apartments are dark. Like, you want bright. You know, I was thinking about what's the perfect rental property, and it does exist and it doesn't. It's like the unicorn. You want it to be light. You want to have a bit of an outdoor area, and you know, you don't want to be going up thousands of steps, for example. So the new build usually will always have a lift. That's a game changer for a lot of people, especially when you don't have a car. Maybe you've just got an e-bike, and you go to Coles or Woolies in DY, you want to take your shopping upstairs. Having the lift is just, primo. Having a top floor apartment that's really, really big and old school, like they used to make, the double brick, you can't, do anything to them. Very rarely they have a lift. So you're going to compromise on all those steps going up. So
You're not
I
going to get a
guess that's
bike. You're not going to bike and lift, are you? You're not going to get a
no.
bike up the stairs, are you? So a lift is great.
Lift is perfect. I've got, friends that had investment properties that are gorgeous. You can see the Harbour Bridge, Neutral Bay, but with kids, you've got to go up 3 flights of stairs. It's just, it gets to a point where you're like, no, I can't do this anymore. If you're, if you're a mom, especially, because you're always carrying stuff, heaps of stuff. So yeah, that's one thing. Like I said, being dark is another thing that people don't want in a unit. Um, and I mean, the location these days, I don't know that it plays a huge factor as far as like if you're on one side of Pittwater Road to the other. It used to be in the day, the wrong side of the tracks, the good side of the tracks. Now I find that there's things on both sides that make everything, it's a bit leveled, and the walk to the beach is so close in comparison to where other people live. It's not really a thing anymore. But it used to be, you'd want to be on the right side of Pittwater Road when buying a property.
Now, I'm surprised that a person who's dealing with repairs, maintenance, lots of like the nice thing about hearing this advice from you about what you would buy is you're dealing with the shit. You're dealing with the good stuff, you're dealing with the bad stuff, but not only that, you're dealing with it with scale. So you're responsible for 500 properties, which is probably about 1,000 landlords, which is probably about 1,000, 1,500 tenants. So you're dealing with a lot of this property stuff. What I really find interesting about your passion for property and what you're talking about this morning is that you have said that you would buy new in a market where people are at the moment really freaking out about new. They're just hearing about the commissioner out there slamming builders. They're hearing about shit buildings, and that to see someone who's dealing with so across so many properties to say, yeah, I'd buy new. I think it's great.
Yeah, and the thing is with new, tenants are attracted to new. Tenants aren't attracted to the old chipboard 70s cupboards, and having to, deal with poor plumbing and the old standards of things where it's a one flush toilet, and just there is a lot of good, but, as a property manager, the way that we've dealt with all these new builds in DY, there haven't been that many defects that are an issue. So a bit of a leak needs to be attended to or something. It's never been anything major or detrimental to the property where a tenant's gone, this is a nightmare. Whereas I find with the older properties as well, like they don't have the internet capabilities, they don't have the power capabilities. We have so much stuff that we need to plug in and the kitchens and the power boards, they can't take it in these older properties. So there's
It's
the only
true, hey.
It's so true. Like, they say, oh, it's
Wonderful.
shorted the power. I'm like, how? I don't know. I've got my fridge, my kettle, my computer, like all the things that we normally would use.
Microwave.
Yeah, but in the 70s and the 60s, the 50s, whenever these properties were built, they didn't have that much, electrical equipment. So I guess that's another thing. Yeah, like you said, I would definitely get new for that purpose as well.
I love that. Now, before we go, Lisa reckons Strata is much better in the new blocks. And there's one more question for you to answer.
What's
Lisa
that?
wants to know how you get the kids ready for 7:45, ready and do a live at 7:45. Hail, hail, hail the Queen, she says.
Oh, thanks. Like Lisa can talk. She's on the finale side. I'm just getting started, and I often used to ask Lisa, who would always come to work polished. The kids are done and dusted, and we probably thought the same for her. How did you get here from the east as well? Like travel time. I don't know.
True.
You just juggle, and you know what? With a 2-year-old, the iPad is a game changer. I've sat her in front of there now, and she's glued there for a bit, like a zombie, and then I'll go and get her in a minute.
And it's Content City as well these days, free, so
Oh,
you can just keep rolling through good content for the kids.
for sure, definitely.
Cleo, it's really refreshing to hear your view as a expert property manager what you'd buy. Thanks for coming on.
All good. See you guys later. Have a good weekend
See you later.
coming. Bye.
Yeah,
Bye.
cheers, bye.